Somewhere along the way, I became the version of myself who stayed. Not because I planned to, and not because I believed it was the right choice, but because staying slowly became the easier thing to do. The quieter option, the one that required the least explanation. Leaving always felt like it demanded courage I wasn't sure I had, while staying asked only for patience. And at the time, patience felt safer than uncertainty. I didn't wake up one day and decide to remain. It happened gradually, through small decisions, small delays, and quiet compromises that added up until staying no longer felt like a choice at all, but simply the shape my life had taken. I stayed in familiar rooms where the furniture never moved and the light fell the same way every evening. In conversations that repeated themselves without really going anywhere, and in routines that made the days blend together until time felt softer and less noticeable. There was comfort in knowing what would happen next, even when what came next was ordinary or slightly disappointing, because predictability gave me something to hold on to. Staying didn't hurt in an obvious way, not at first, and that made it easy to ignore the subtle feeling that something important was being postponed, quietly without a clear date. There was another version of me, the one who packed a bag without telling too many people, who closed the door gently behind him, and who didn't look back, because looking back would have made leaving harder. I think about him sometimes, not with regret and not with envy, but with a distant curiosity, like wondering about someone you once knew very well. I imagine him stepping into unfamiliar streets, making mistakes, learning new names, and becoming someone shaped by motion instead of repetition. And I wonder if he ever thinks about the version of me who stayed behind. The version who stayed learned how to shrink his dreams in a way that felt almost responsible. Not all at once, and not painfully, but slowly and carefully, reducing expectations year by year until they fit comfortably inside ordinary days. Big hopes became quiet wishes, and quiet wishes became things I told myself I didn't really need. Over time, those dreams stopped asking for bravery, stopped interrupting my routines, and stopped reminding me of what might have been possible if I had chosen differently. I told myself this was maturity, that wanting less meant I was growing up, becoming practical, becoming someone who understood how the world worked. I convinced myself that disappointment was something you learned to manage politely, without complaint, and that ambition was something you softened with age. But deep down, I knew the truth I didn't want to say out loud. That I wasn't becoming wiser. I was simply becoming better at living with what never happened and calling it acceptance. The version who stayed became very good at being reasonable, at explaining why now wasn't the right time, why waiting made more sense, and why certain dreams were unrealistic anyway. Those explanations sounded logical, thoughtful, even kind, and eventually I started believing them myself. Reason became a language I used to negotiate with my own longing, to keep it quiet, to keep it manageable, until wanting something more began to feel unnecessary, almost inconvenient. Sometimes late at night, when the room is quiet and the familiar sounds fade into the background, I feel him, the version of me who left. He doesn't speak, and he doesn't accuse me of anything. He simply stands there in the back of my mind, calm and observant, waiting to see if I will notice him. His silence feels heavier than words, and in that quiet, I sense all the places he has been that I have not. I want to tell him that staying wasn't a failure, that it was heavy and complicated and full of fear, but also full of love, responsibility, and choices that mattered in ways that were invisible to most people. I want him to understand that staying required its own kind of strength, the kind that doesn't look impressive from the outside, but holds everything together quietly. Leaving might have changed my surroundings, but staying shaped my endurance, my patience, and the way I learned to care. Maybe every life contains a version that stays and another that leaves, and neither one is wrong or incomplete. They simply carry different kinds of weight, different kinds of silence, and different questions they never stop asking themselves. One wonders what it would have been like to remain, and the other wonders what it would have been like to go, and both live with a quiet curiosity about the path they did not take. This letter is for the version of me who stayed, the one who didn't disappear and didn't give up, but chose to remain when leaving felt impossible. You held your life together in ordinary ways, through repetition, responsibility, and quiet endurance, even when no one noticed. And even if your story doesn't sound dramatic, even if it unfolded slowly and without applause, that choice too counts as a life, and it deserves to be acknowledged.